Okay. Hi, Becky.
Hi, Brooke.
Okay, so today we're going to come together and talk a little bit about something that we can do during the winter for most of us
Yeah.
that's both beneficial for your horse and educational for the rest of us to learn about.
Yes.
So, our big topic today is long lining. And Becky, what do you do
Love
for a
it.
living? What is it? What's your background?
I'm a dressage trainer and
Excellent.
I work with a lot of rehab horses, which means I have to be good at long lining because a lot of my horses can't tolerate having a rider on their back due to back soreness or pain. So, long lining is something I've invested a lot of time into learning how to do. And it's one of my favorite tools for helping horses at various stages of their developments and getting through some kind of sticky spots and also seeing what's happening from the ground.
Excellent. So I figured you would be the best person to kind of have a conversation about this because a lot of people kind of don't really understand the difference between lunging and long lining, ways that long lining is beneficial over just lunging, um, kind of the the deep down info that a person like you knows best about. I figured, why not learn more? So, why do you long line? Number one.
So, long lining is similar to lunging, but where lunging, you sort of put the horse out on the end of the line and you usually use some kind of attachment or not to help the horse carry itself better. With long lining, you use two reins and you can almost ride the horse from the ground. So, you can give half halts, you can move the horse sideways, you can bend different directions. You can, I should say, you can flex different directions. You can also go down the long side. You can do figures, and you can, in theory, do just about everything that you can do on the horse in the long lines. Eventually, that takes a lot of skill. But there are some people who are very, very good at long lining and can do whole Grand Prix tests in the long lines or do extensive patterns. There's a guy from Sweden named Bo Jenna, who I learned from many years ago, who is very good at long line, and he can do a whole Grand Prix test with a horse in long lines. So
Ooh,
you get your cardio,
ooh, yes, that's impressive work.
but it's there's a lot that you can do, and there's a lot more potential that you can build on as opposed to lunging.
Okay. So for long lining, it's not obviously you can do it for horses that are injured and you're or
Mhm.
not maybe injured, but like back sore or something like that. So
Mhm.
you're trying to stay off their back and that sort of thing. But
Mhm.
how is it a beneficial thing for people who like their horse is in a regular program and they're doing pretty well, but maybe this is a good thing to add in?
Mhm. So long lining is great because you can really see a lot of your horse's tendencies without you. So most of us know that the horse sort of has its little crookedness and asymmetry and little tendencies, and then we put a rider on top and they have their little crookedness and asymmetries and habits. So we can separate the two and just see what the horse wants to do and what the rider wants to do. And that can really help the rider and help the trainer work toward correcting that. So, for example, if I have a horse that tends to really be hollow or really against the bridle, if I put it in the long lines, I can see right away if the horse just goes out on the circle and comes right through on the bit, well, it's probably the rider's fault. If the
Right.
horse takes a little while to come through in the long lines, well, that's probably an issue with the horse. And that's maybe something that we could work with through body work too.
Right, right. Yeah, so almost like a diagnostic tool for you to
Yes.
be able to see your horse and get a
Yes.
better feel, that sort of way.
Yes. And
Um,
it also allows you to work through some of those things without the weight of a rider, which is really nice
right.
because sometimes even the best of us can be more harm than help. So
Right. Right.
give them a
Exactly.
chance to kind of do it on their own.
Yeah, exactly. Is there any things that you can do that, like, what is long lining for everyone? Can anyone just jump on in and do it? Like, what are things that can go wrong?
There's a
That sort of
lot that
thing.
can go wrong, and you
Yeah.
definitely don't want to just jump on in, but I do feel like it's something that just about anyone can learn.
Okay.
So I would say prerequisite would be you want to be able to really be good at lunging. You want your horse to really understand that it should move around you in a circle. You should feel like you can hold the whip well and the line well and manage the line. So the biggest accidents that happen in long lining are when long liners mismanage the lines and either switch them or get them tangled, trip on them, those kinds of things. So if you can't manage one, you probably don't want to jump in and try to manage two.
Right.
Then, if the horse is really proficient in that, but maybe doesn't move forward very well, they can sometimes turn the wrong way. So if
Mm,
they twist towards you in the long lines, depending on how you have them set up, you don't want the horse to learn on the line to turn towards you because they can get wrapped up in the long lines very easily, and that can be very
right.
dangerous.
Right.
So basically, if the horse lunges really well, if it totally understands how to go on a circle, that's your prerequisite. If you've got that down, that's when you can start practicing some stuff with long lining.
Okay. That's awesome. And then, for people who are they're trying to have a more balanced program, and maybe they don't have a trainer that they're working with or something like that, what are ways that they can maybe learn how to long line, or, like, what are ways that people can get more confident in this area?
Well, I think that first of all, the best way to be confident is to have the right equipment.
Okay.
So, if your safety is a big issue with this, so I think the best thing is to have a good quality surcingle. You should always long line using a surcingle and preferably a surcingle with turrets. So turrets are little like hook eyelet things that actually stand up off of the surcingle. So
Okay.
they prevent the surcingle from trapping the rein down and getting hung up. And that's really important because we don't want the horse to feel trapped and then have a panic attack and then, create some sort of issue that way. Um, there are some fairly affordable surcingles with turrets. Uh, I think they have one on dressage extensions that's like $60.
Mm,
But you can spend as
right.
much as you want.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I do
Like
think
everything
it's
in our horse
important.
world.
Yes, I do think that it's important if you're going to plan to make this a part of your routine to really invest in the right equipment because it's something that can go very wrong, and that's not what we want.
Right.
So a good quality surcingle, then it's best to make sure the surcingle is really properly fitted. So if it's the type of surcingle that just goes around the horse that doesn't have like a bump over the spine or have like some sort of way to grip around the horse's withers,
Hmm.
you should put that over your saddle. So if you can, if it's an English saddle, you should be able to. So
Okay.
that should be fitted over the saddle so that it doesn't twist or pull forward or push into the horse's withers, which could again cause pain and then an issue there.
Yep.
So, and I prefer long lines that are leather because they glide through the turrets really well
Okay.
and they give sort of a natural rein feel in your hand. So the ones that I use are about the same width as my reins. And that just helps sort of keep my riding education and my long lining education a little bit more together. They have a lot of nylon versions. So that's okay if you don't have anything else. You can always, of course, just use two lunge lines too. But I think if you're doing that, you definitely want to make sure that you're using a surcingle with turrets because the nylon just doesn't glide
Right.
quite well. So
Right.
um, the leather is probably best, but again, it's kind of hard to find those and a bit more of an investment. So
Okay.
I would say that would be the biggest thing, is make sure you have a good, safe setup.
Okay. And then as far as them, finding trainers that do it, or like, is there any videos or anything like that?
I'm sure there are good videos.
Yeah. Perhaps something on our radar that we maybe will surprise people with.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, I think that you really want to be aware of any videos that encourage you to do things that seem like your horse wouldn't like. So the biggest thing is, your horse, do what you feel like your horse can handle. So there's a lot of different ways to hook up the long lines. And if your horse gets a little concerned about things going behind its butt, wait to run the lines behind the horse's butt. You can run them over the horse's back. Some horses, never. I don't ever
Right.
put the thing
Right.
behind their butt, and they do just fine. It's okay. Some horses, that's a really good tool to be able to run the long line behind its butt. The other thing is, you can always use, when you're first starting out, you can always hook the inside rein just directly to the bit. That's a great way to start. It's really simple. It's a direct aid. So you're a lot less likely to put too much pressure on that rein, which is important because, like I said before, you don't want to turn the horse towards you and have it start spinning and wrapping itself in the long line. So I would say that's a good idea. You don't have to do that for very long. Once everybody is comfortable, you can progress to connecting the lines a little bit more differently. But there are a ton of ways that you can connect the lines. There's a ton of ways that you can use your body language to influence the horse. And there are all kinds of ways that you can do different movements in the long line. So I would say start basic, but then just, think about your horse, where you're at, what you can handle, and build up slowly. There's a lot of experimenting that can be done, but best done slowly.
Right. Right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Becky. I think that
You're
was
welcome.
great information for people. At least it gives a basic update to it all, and then we can go from there. So, and obviously, I will tag you in things so people can ask you questions if they
Great.
have anything. So, well,
Great.
thank you so much for taking time with me today.
You're so welcome. My pleasure.
All right, have a good one.
You too.